You're watching Women of Strength TV with a purpose-driven woman who has a yearning deep in her soul to serve the world. Presented to you by Ange Wilcock, creator of Evolutionary Model of Well-Being, Mindfulness-Based Storytelling, and the Raw Woman Project, a businesswoman on a mission for every human on the earth to feel enough.
So welcome to another Woman of Strength TV and podcast, and yet another incredible guest. And I think I said on my previous podcast that I maybe should just pre-record this part and just just stitch it in, because every woman that I interview is absolutely phenomenal. They're incredible and they have incredible stories, and this beautiful lady in front of me now is no exception. And so I'd like to welcome Robyn. Robyn, welcome to Women of Strength podcast and TV.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here.
Oh, and it's an honor to have you. Now, I'm just going to introduce you, Robyn, by reading out your bio, and then we will get to learn all about your incredible story. And so Robyn Paulete is an intuitive healer and female alchemy. She's an expert who helps women discover the secrets to creating a life that's intimately connected with the divine. A life that aligns both physically and, a life that aligns both physical and spiritual needs and values. And as I was saying to Robyn before we went on air, we're just raw, we just show up as we are, we make mistakes because that's what we do. We're perfect, and that's what Robyn was saying, perfectly imperfect. Yeah. And so through earth-based traditions and practices, Robyn helps you see the true self, warts and all, and I think we all know what that feels like, as you learn to navigate your unique path to personal mastery. Her clients experience massive transformations physically, emotionally, and spiritually as their potential is activated and their devotion to life's inner journey is honored. Robyn has been practicing traditional herbalism, shamanic healing, and transformational coaching for nearly 20 years. So welcome, Robyn. I mean, that sounds incredible. So, and I'm sure you've got an amazing story to tell us. And so what we want to know is, how did that story of stepping into that woman of strength, like when did that begin for you?
That's one of my favorite things to think about just in my own time when I'm walking and I have moments of quiet, is when did this really begin? And I think for all of us, because of my work, especially now more than ever, really revolves around the story of our soul, the story that we came here to live out. So at any different time in my life, I may have answered that differently, but for today, I would say that it began for me from the very beginning. It's what I came here to do and be. And I first noticed that there was something magical or otherworldly in the world when I was really young. I had experiences where I would see things before they happened, like a good 24 hours before they happened. So I really did have very strong experiences of deja vu. And it confused me a lot. And then I started to have experiences with manifesting. Right, I started to see this rhythm of something would happen and then something would happen again. And so then I played with wanting things and foreseeing things. And it was little things like, I don't know if these were in New Zealand, but when I was little, there were these little stuffed animals called pound puppies.
Oh, yes.
I really wanted pound puppies. And on the first day that I had this experience, and it was just this feeling that I was sort of like in between worlds, I could tell. And I closed my eyes and I said, I really want a pound puppy. And I felt the pound puppy. I could feel myself holding it, squeezing it, seeing it. And then the next day on the school bus again, where I had been the day before, wanting the pound puppy, got home and they were on my bed.
Wow.
So I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea. I just knew there was something more than my mom and dad were telling me. Like,
Yeah.
something's going on. But then life came in, as life does.
Mm.
We had a really tragic, horrific death in the family. And my parents took custody of my 3 cousins. And so all of a sudden, when I was 7, we went from 3 kids in the house to 6 kids in the house. And a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of mystery, a lot of fear. And that for me, and this took me a long time to figure out, but that for me was a real marked point in my life where I really disengaged from my family, right? I really believed my cousins needed my parents more than I did, because of their tragedy. And I became completely immersed in the world of plants and animals, because that was the only thing that made sense to me, right? Mm-hmm. I had this early beginning of some veil between worlds, and then a really marked occasion of being in the human world, being something that was very jarring and fearful. So I fell in love with horses, and I fell in love with plants, and that all made sense to me.
Yeah.
that I could speak to animals more than I could speak to humans. I could relate with the way that I saw rhythms of nature. I was very lucky to have people in my life who taught me about just real basic traditional medicine. The weeds that grow in our yard, and how if you get poison ivy, there's a remedy that grows right next to it. You get plantain, and you chew it up and you put it on this thing. And so I started learning about this world that to me made sense. I wasn't sure that I could function in the social human world very well, but I could function in the animal and plant kingdom very well. Excuse me. So when I think about strength, and I've been reflecting on this a lot, I think a lot of us, especially women, tend to relate strength with these stories from the consciousness of a victim archetype, right? Mm-hmm. That we all have a story in which we've suffered, right? Life in one sense is suffering.
Yeah.
And we all come through it in one way or another. And we can tend to look back and say, well, I'm really strong because, and I'll speak for myself. Like we've had a death in the family. I've been through 2 divorces. I'm a single mom. I was kicked out of my house when I was 16. I hitchhiked across the country. I was almost kidnapped by a sexual predator. The list goes on. Like there's so many of those things, but I never look at those as the points that really marked my life, or from where I feel like I've gained my strength. For me, strength is much more like her sister, resilience. Mm-hmm. Because resiliency for me has a flexibility, much like a tree, right? So we go to the plant world, like trees are super strong, but they're super flexible. And that's really where their strength lies, right? Because if they weren't flexible, they would break. And so it's being connected to earth, to the element of our home, and being able to reach out into the world with great flexibility, and to let the winds and the storms and the sunshine of life come and mark our leaves and scratch our bark, and not have that define who we are, right? But to still let it nourish and feed our story, and find our resilience in, and this goes into like Brene Brown with her idea of vulnerability being our greatest strength, right? There's a lot of resilience and courage in being vulnerable, in being really soft. And so for me, the strength is being soft enough to just say, I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. I have no idea. And I'm going to give it over. I'm going to give it over to these plants, to God, to the earth, to these animals, and just say, show me the way, because I have no idea what I'm doing. And that's where I find strength. Right?
Yeah.
And I've tried the emotional strength. I've tried the mental strength. I've tried the physical strength. I've tried the pushing. I've tried being super masculine in all of my ways in the world. And it always ended badly. I always felt hurt in one way or another. I felt very disconnected from who I am. Everything just sort of fell apart until I just let go and got really soft again and trusted again and went right back to the earth and to the plants, to the animals, and could speak what I really wanted to speak, where, you know, I'm sure you know this better than most, like we all just really want to be heard. Right?
Yep.
That when someone really listens and we're heard, it's healing. There's this tradition in herbalism where when you speak to the plants, when you're first coming up to a plant that is a medicine, that you sing a song to it, or you sing while you're harvesting, because the plants, they know vibration better than anything, and the sound of our voice is really healing, and they call it song talking, right? So you're singing and talking, and you're creating this healing relationship between yourself and the plant, right? And so you become one, and the medicine then works through you. And I've always found that to be true. That even just the song talking for myself was really, really healing, because there were things I couldn't say to my partner or my children or my family or my best friends. It wouldn't come out in the same way that it could when I'm song talking to my horse or my dog or the dandelion. And all of that, again, like that letting go, the speaking, the getting into the really simple layers of being, are how I feel like I have become a woman of strength.
It's fantastic. And I so connect to, you know, that talking to the plants and the singing and the song. And have you seen, and I've seen the vibration of plants and the songs that they sing. Have you seen that piece of technology that's out where it's incredible? So you attach these, and it doesn't hurt the plants. You attach these little electrode type things to it, and it's got this speaker, and the plant just sings this incredible tune. The music is amazing. I was at a retreat back in August, and I was lucky enough that the shaman that was running it had one, and oh my goodness, because we know that the plants and animals talk to us, that connect with us. But when you hear their tune, it's just breathtaking. It's just,
I have goosebumps right now.
Oh, if you've not seen one of those gadgets, I can't remember what it's called. It's incredible. And because we know that, like you said, it's our inner being. We know that we communicate with life outside of the human species. Anything that's living, there's a vibration. But when we know that technology can show us the truth of that too, it's like, wow. And I love what you said about the tree, because that's how I've lived my life in terms of, you know, woman of strength is just a name, and strength and strong is very, very masculine, but it is that sense of resilience, that sense of knowing, that sense of being. And I've always connected, I'm English by origin but live in New Zealand, and I've always connected to the oak tree, always. I've got a tattoo on me. Everything I do is around acorns, oak trees, and it's because I just connect with it in the sense of strong roots, grounded, but it sways, and it's, you know, and that's like life. And then, but the acorns fall, and when you nurture it, any acorn, through that resilient spirit, as I call it, something incredible grows from it. And so so the way that I look at life, which is what I love about the analogies that you're giving, is that every time life throws a curveball, I don't see myself as a victim. I go, there's another acorn dropped. Now I have a choice. Do I nurture this, or just let it go? You know, in the sense of, if I'm not going to nurture it, it's not going to grow into something bigger and stronger and better. So I so connect to what you're saying. I love it. Amazing.
Yeah, it really is. You know, I haven't seen the little machine that you're talking about, but it made me think of the Japanese maybe he was a scientist and I forget his name, but he was one of the first people who, at least to the Western world, brought the awareness of how when we speak to water, how literally like the crystals of water, they change shape, right? When you speak loving words, they make these incredible mandalas. And when you speak hateful and hurtful words, they shrivel and shrink and look really broken. So it made me think of that when you said that that's another way, perhaps for people who haven't heard or seen the vibration that plants make. Another way to think of it, like on a cellular level. Because we're all made of the same stuff, right? And we forget that every day too.
And I also do. I don't know if you've seen that. That was from I can't remember the lady that did that. That with exactly the same principle with and the vibration about how we speak to things, you know, and that's got an energetic vibration to it. Is I work with my clients and get them to cut an apple in half, put it in a jar, different jars, over a month, talk to one apple with kind, loving, beautiful words, and then the other apple just continually tell it off. And of course, the one that you talk kind and lovingly to just stays beautiful. It doesn't go brown, nothing. The one that you tell off starts to shrivel, starts to go moldy, and people are just blown away, and they're like, wow, and that's just words. And it's like, absolutely. So, you know,
those are words that we chant to ourselves every day, all day long. And our bodies follow suit, right? So I work a lot, because I'm real physical and earthy. I work a lot with people through their body. Like, we really look at how the body is the ultimate temple that tells us everything. And that same awareness, I love your apple in the jar story. That's great. And I can see how applicable that would be to the way that I work with women in their bodies, and recognizing how all of our self-talk, you know, lands in the body, like the aches and the pains that we feel like, well, I'll just take a Tylenol for that, or an aspirin for this. It's like, but your body's telling you something, right? It's helping you learn where you're having this negative talk, because we habituate it, right? You know, and then we try to counteract that and like, okay, well, I'm going to be strong. I'm going to be really positive today. And it's this back and forth of like trying to have that mental strength rather than the surrendered resiliency, which is really the strength that we need in those times to heal, to really heal.
And I mean, for me, it's a fascination around, and we haven't really, in terms of science, we haven't really found the core around that resilient spirit. You know, what makes one person more resilient than another? Because it is like, what is resilience? I mean, and I know when we're talking in terms of the human form, it is just a word, and we can make it whatever we want it to. But I just have I don't know if it's a theory or a thought, how I live my life, is that resilience is, for me, it's always looking inward rather than outward. It's always looking in and connecting to who I am and my being with who I am right now, because who I am right now, I'm going to be someone different tomorrow, and I'm going to be someone different a week down the line and 6 months down the line. And it's for me, it's always about, just reconnecting. Because it's the outside stimulus, isn't it, that creates that disease within the body. And so, like you were saying, resilience isn't about, I'm going to be stronger and I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. Resilience is like, look inward. What's your body trying to tell you? You know, and I've been doing that for a long time now, and that's the best healing method that you can ever have. Understanding the mind, understanding the language and the vocabulary that we use, and listening to your body. And
I tend to think of those amazing little seeds that start growing in the cracks of sidewalks, right? And they have little, if no soil at all, yet they find a way. And that's where I think of like that dance, that sisterhood between strength and resilience, is you have this flexibility and this life force, right? That just like, I want to live. I want to thrive. Like, thank you for another day. Like, and being really curious about what's possible, rather than looking at the crack in the sidewalk and saying, well, I can't grow there. You look at it and you say, how could I possibly grow a root down deep enough to touch the teeniest bit of dirt so I can have water and grow. And that's when I try to explain resilience to people. It's really through the eyes of the curious, right? Like, get really curious and excited about what's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Like living in that place of wonder, isn't it? I wonder if I did this, or I wonder what would if I did that. And and that's that place, you know, and you were talking about, you know, being that child and knowing and be able, because I mean, I've got little grandchildren and they're little, you know, 3 and 5, and they believe in fairies and unicorns, and they talk to people and what have you. And you know, my daughter and I, we just encourage it. It's like, yes, of course you can. Of course, you know, and they have a belief that they can do anything, and they can if they're encouraged to continue in that belief. But of course, when they get to school and you know, and life happens. But if there's always someone saying to them, you know, because I always say to my little granddaughter, you know, I believe in unicorns too, and that they can fly. And she's going, do you? And I'm like, yeah. So,
absolutely.
Because
I tell my kids, it is the truth. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I tell my kids, I tell them that's the beginning of understanding their magic, right? Because right now they think that, you know, the magic is what they see in the Disney cartoon. Like, why can't I make ice come from my hands like Elsa does? And and I said, well, you can, but you have to use your magic. You can't use Elsa's magic, because Elsa is Elsa and you are you. And learning to believe and trust yourself and recognize that there's so much going on that we don't see begins to teach you about your magic. And that's part of what your life is, right? That every day you start learning about how to use your magic. And I definitely feel like, having had a really wild, vivid imagination as a child, helped me through all of my challenges in life. Like, every time I encountered something really difficult and trying on a personal development level, it was because my connection to imagination and my own unique brand of magic and way of believing how the world operates was what bred my resiliency to adapt, find my life force, get really curious, and thrive.
And because the reality is, if whatever reality is, we don't know how the world operates, really. We don't know how the world operates. We only know how our world operates, isn't it? And that's and so we have the power to absolutely choose what that is for us. And but we're so consumed by social conditioning, and then when we make a choice to move away from that, then there's even more pressure on us to, you know, oh, there's something wrong with you or whatever. And so shifting into that new space, you know, can be challenging. So what would your suggestions or advice be to women who, you know, because I think at the core, not just women, men too, but at our core, we know that there's something far greater than us, far bigger than us, and we connect to it more regularly than we probably realize. But what would your advice be to women who are just now ready to really step into that space and to say, I've had enough of all this conditioning, I want to step into this space? What would your advice be to them if this is new to them?
This is my favorite thing, and then probably really the apex of my work in the world. And on one hand, it's so individual, right? We're such bio individuals that there's so much that in the conversation and the way that she carries herself in the dialogue that we've had. But I would say a universal sort of entry point is love. And it sounds so cliche, but it's so true. And so, like I said earlier, I work with women through their bodies. So my universal entry point for someone who's really just beginning and wanting to take that step but feeling really vulnerable is we would be working with herbs, and we would be working with teas, and particularly with apple and rose, right? Because they come from the same family, the same plant species family. And everything about the apple and the rose is about compassion and love and forgiveness and the healing of the heart, right? They're all around the heart energy, where we hold all of our feelings, and our capacity to hold a myriad of feelings exists in our heart, physically and spiritually.
Yeah.
And apple and rose also teach us about boundaries, right? So that's one thing that I've seen over the years with women who are just beginning to really open and like see the world with those curious eyes and wanting to step out and have a deeper relationship with divinity, is that we all just want to go, oh my God, wow, and live like really open-hearted. And then we get burned and hurt and slapped. And so rose and apple teach you about boundaries, because they're trees, the apples don't have thorns, but I don't know if you've ever climbed an apple tree. It's not the most joyful experience. Like everything grows really close and tight together, and the bark kind of breaks off in areas that are painful, and the stems, and then the rose has thorns. So they're also teachers about boundaries, right? And so it's really important to begin to love yourself spiritually, love yourself physically. Just slow everything down and just start with something really simple around love, and a ritual of like drinking tea and caring for yourself, right? And the beautiful thing about plants is that you don't have to tell them what to do. You don't have to say, I really need you to heal my heart. Like, they just do what they do. And we have to get out of the way. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Because
start with love.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, love is love, isn't it? That is it. It's not cliche. That's what it is. Yeah. And that's what everyone's searching for. When people say they're searching for happiness, what they're actually searching for is love. But when we talk about love is about you. Who am I? I am love. And and so it's finding those little things that.
And especially in our world today, I think so many of us still think that that self-care, that loving of self is indulgent in some way, right? Because women were taught to give and care for everyone around us.
Yeah, we nurture everyone outside of ourselves. Wonderful.
And to just care and show ourselves love is indulgent. And I tell the women I work with, I say, this is preservation. You are preserving your soul and your spirit and your whole self, your body, your health, by loving. Starting here. Start there.
And I love the whole analogy when you're on an aeroplane and they give you the safety video, and it's all about you put the oxygen mask on yourself before you're a child. And what that's showing you is you have to look after you first before you can look after anyone else. Because we would automatically want to put it onto, the child, wouldn't we? It's like, if you do that, you'll die.
Yeah.
You've got a higher chance of death.
Everybody understands that.
Yeah. It's a great reminder. It's just a safety video, but really it's not. It's like saying the truth of life.
Deep. Yes. Very, very deep.
Yeah. True. Yeah, so all you ladies out there that fly, when you see that safety video again, it'll be a key reminder that actually looking after yourself and nurturing yourself first is the key to everything.
You have permission to care for and love yourself.
And that's the other thing, isn't it? We it's like we do want permission, but we can only give ourselves permission to shift into that space. So great.
Yeah,
so I do have a question for you around if you had to give some advice, and you may have answered this, but if you had to give some advice to your 16-year-old self on the journey that you've been on right now, what would your advice be?
So when I was 16, I was kicked out of my house, and I was taken in by an amazing couple who were sannyasins of Osho and devoted to NLP and self-resilience. And so looking back, like the one thing that didn't really land for me back then that I wished had was trust, like self-trust. And it goes along the lines of what we were talking about earlier around wanting to, that we're all wanting love, right? And so because we're wanting that so much, we go out into the world looking for it. Will you love me? Am I lovable? Am I enough?
Yeah.
And I would tell my 16-year-old self to trust herself beyond and over and above anything or anyone else, that anytime she's questioning or doubting or really looking, not to look outside of herself for that approval or the affection, but to look inside and to trust it.
Perfect. Absolutely. Yeah. Perfect. Wonderful.
Easier said than done, but
but again, it's the same with anything in life, isn't it? It's practice. You know, we've practiced saying being unkind to ourselves. So it's now practice being kind. So, and it becomes familiar. You know, being kind to ourselves and loving ourselves can be quite unfamiliar to a lot of women. But the more we do it, it becomes familiar. And then the old pattern of, you know, telling ourselves off all the time just goes, it just moves. So I think, you know, that is it is a perfect thing to tell your 16-year-old self. Trust yourself. You are enough. You are lovable. You are loved. And the more you tell yourself that, then you end up believing it, because it is the truth. Because all what we've told ourselves in the past isn't the truth, but it's what we've been conditioned to believe. So perfect.
And what we don't realize is that we transform.
Yes.
Right? Like when we're looking from a place of pain or hurt or challenge ahead, we can't possibly imagine how love is going to make that feel better or change that. But the act of the loving and the self-care and the devotion to resilience changes us, and we literally become something and someone different.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the thing around, I visualize the person that I want to step into, you know, the next layer of me, I suppose. It's sort of like, you know, you step into one place and it's like it felt uncomfortable, and then it feels real comfortable, and it's like, okay, so now it's the next. What do I look like next? What do I feel like next? And move into that space and the next space and the next space. And so it's just stepping, isn't it?
It is.
Rather than feeling overwhelmed by it, it's like step into this, feel comfortable.
Right. Or feeling like you have to like arrive somewhere. Like you don't ever finish.
No, I know.
You just keep going. Somewhere new and like with new eyes to see.
Yeah. That curiosity, like you were speaking of before. You know, live with a curious heart. It's how wonderful that is.
It is.
Oh, it's been amazing.
So sweet.
It's been wonderful. So how can our incredible women, how can they find you, Robyn?
So I have a website that's under really fun construction, which will be up soon. So that's my name, Robyn Paulete with one T, .com. So keep checking in there. And there's an email address if you want to contact me right away, which is admin@robynpaulete.com. And I also have a public Facebook page that is also new and starting to get some magical things put up there, which my handle is @RobynPaulete. So very easy. My name, and my name, and my name.
Cool. I'll put all the links anyway under our interview, so people will be able to contact you. And do you have any free or complimentary resources that people can tap into?
I will once the website is up,
Brilliant.
which should be soon. So as soon as that's up, go check over there, and there will be a bunch of things, a bunch of wonderful tools and resources to play with to help you along your path to loving and building resilience and finding the courage to be real and to be the real you.
Fantastic. And it sounds exciting. What you're doing right now is being you and putting your message out there. So that's exciting. So ladies, I will keep you updated when I'll put all the resources below Robyn's interview, and as she brings out new things, she'll let me know, and that they'll go below it too. So thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
It has been. Thanks for having me again.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Remain real, authentic, and whole. Be yourself and continue to follow your dreams. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time on Woman of Strength TV.